Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is OJ Stellar and here we go. My last video was about how I was groomed by a psychic from age 17 to 24. I do want to do just some tidying up here. She was an extremely powerful woman. In the beginning of our relationship, it was very much like teacher and student, right? And like I looked at her like an oracle. She always had an answer. She made me feel a lot better about a lot of the like spiritual anxiety that I felt in my life at the time. And as the years went on, I started, my brain is developing more and more, and I start kind of seeing things more clearly. As I always say, hindsight is Andre 3000. And, the teacher and students started kind of leveling out. And as that like power dynamic was shifting and I wasn't like, super needy of her anymore, she started getting like meaner and meaner. And I started being more critical of things she was saying. And then it all ended on the sex boat, as I said. And I realized I dropped some insane lore on you guys, casually mentioning that an ex of mine ended up being a cannibal. But oh my God, when I finally broke up with him, I had the biggest glow up of my life. I started riding my bike 6 miles a day while I used to shuck oysters in Portland, Maine. And I broke up with him. I got a Mike's Hard promotional bike, started riding because it was $40 and that's all I could afford. And I started riding that thing 6 miles a day to work. Well, 3 miles there, 3 miles home, and would shuck thousands, I'm talking thousands of oysters a day. And I was in my like mask presenting era, and it was just, after that breakup was great. But I am glossing over some things because the breakup happened once I was able to get a protection order. Because like I said, this man ended up being a cannibal. The only men that I have dated have been bisexual, and he is no exception. The signs were there that he was a cannibal. And because of my background with this psychic, the early signs were kind of lost to me, and the early red flags were green to me, because I thought that like, oh, we keep running into each other. I keep seeing him on the street. Like, I'll give this man a chance. Like, this feels so cosmic, right? Picture it, he's like this tall, buff, blonde guy with long hair and looking like a Viking vibe. So it took me a long time to like warm up to him, because I'm not attracted to anyone that I could be related to. He just kept on like showing up places, and it felt very cosmic and like something I couldn't like ignore anymore. But in hindsight, like, he was following me. So, he like convinces me to start dating him, basically. I don't know. I was like super like no for a long time, and he, wore me down. He was a very spiritual guy, and I feel like because of my like years and years of working with this psychic, I felt like I had this language and no one around me could understand. And keep in mind, this is like, I first started working with that psychic when in like 2010 when I was 17 in like rural New England. Chakras, past lives, Reiki, all of that, crystals, all that stuff is not in the common nomenclature. I don't know if I use that correctly, but like, the Gen Pop is not talking about any of that stuff. So it felt very isolating, and it felt like, I was very much in a cult with that one woman, and it felt like I couldn't really talk about any of that psychic stuff with anybody. I'm sure in California in 2010, there are crystals and past life regressions and Reiki going on, but where I grew up, there wasn't. So when I met him and he like just kind of like understood what I was talking about and like had things to add, I was worn down and we started dating, right? And the signs of him being a cannibal were there. He was a butcher. He was a butcher. He loved Hannibal. Loved Hannibal Lecter, loved Silence of the Lambs. He was like very secretive about some things, and very, very strange man. This is a good example of like his personality. We were on the beach one time and he wanted me to like look at something, and usually someone would be like, hey, look, but he'd be like, behold. So I'm like 23, 24. So my frontal lobe is not developed yet. it's so crazy because like my family all loved him because he was a guy. And I dated, I think, for about a year or so, which is crazy. He came to my sister's wedding. I didn't think that he was like legit a cannibal. I don't know. He would like joke and talk about like which parts of my body he would want to eat and like how he would prepare them. Like, oh, like the back of your arm, I would lightly sear it, and like, oh, the rump, I would roast. The rump is crazy. Oh my God, that's when I was selling life insurance too. That was dark. That was really dark. We're kind of getting into a little career path lore as well. Honestly, during that breakup and during the protection order and going to court and all that stuff, that's the first time I ever did comedy, was to like try to process that whole experience with him. And I remember making a joke because I had broken up with a woman and then I dated him and broken up with him, and I was just like, being bisexual is crazy because like I just broke up with this woman and, you know, we're crying together for hours and she's reciting Sylvia Plath to me. I had to figure out what to do with the cat that we adopted, but it was all very, you know, cordial. And then, you know, I break up with a man and he hides under my house. The final straw was like, I went out doing karaoke with my friends and he showed up and started growling at me in front of everybody. I will say that he did drink my menstrual blood straight out of the Diva cup. So girls, be careful with that because they're already that obsessed with you to drink your menstrual blood. The bond is bonded. We'll just say that, okay? Be careful. The amount of liquids secreting from my breasts is impressive. What am I saying? Yeah, I accidentally dated a cannibal. Oopsie. And again, that's when I first did stand up because I had to process that somehow. And, you know, I will say, if you're ever considering getting a protection order, just do it. I'm really grateful that he never like put his hands on me or cooked me alive and ate me. I think he's a non-practicing cannibal. I can only hope. And I'm just really grateful for comedy now more than ever. Like, maybe I'm going to give a couple of tidbits about the career path lore. So I went to college. I got a degree in sociology, in women's studies, and queer studies. I'm actually the first person to graduate with a queer studies degree. I started doing social work. I was a case manager. I worked in schools. I was a BHP. I did like all of these things using my degree, right? Hoping that my family would respect me. Never. Every time I would get like chewed up and burnt out doing social work because there was not enough training. I was like 21, like fresh out of college, thinking I was gonna like change the world, right? I would like kind of go back and forth between social work and service industry. I grew up doing competitive dance, and then I did ballet up until in college even. And then after college, when I moved to Portland, Maine, I did burlesque and I did sales, social work, service industry. Every job I had, I was like sexually harassed and just not paid enough. And, you know, service industry was the only place that I feel like I was like actually like making a little bit of money. And burlesque was really exciting and I loved it. I loved performing. I loved the creativity. I loved reclaiming my sexuality. And then, you know what? I was like, I'm going to work in a club. And then so I worked in a club, and that was my first time experiencing financial freedom. And you know what? I will just say that like gay women make some of the best sex workers out there. Go into any club and a lot of the dancers are going to be gay. Okay, so I started working in a club, and then 6 months into that, COVID started, and I said, oh, the world's ending. I guess this is, you know, time to do PORN. And so I did like TikTok to OnlyFans pipeline there for a minute in like 2020 in that whole boom. And I have a huge horror story. I have so many OF horror stories that I want to get into just because I feel like it's so glamorized. And that was a big reason why I wanted to do the podcast, actually, is to like de-glamorize it a bit. Which I did, and I feel like Sydney and I were very much like whistleblowers in the space, but didn't really do us any good in the end, but I think that we did prevent a lot of women from having bad experiences. But okay, I'm really blabbing on here. I first did stand-up in 2017-ish after that breakup with the cannibal. And I've done stand-up here and there in the last 4 years living in LA, but this year, after stopping doing the podcast with Sydney in like February, March, I started like really doing comedy, and the last 3 months doing the Download comedy show has been the best thing ever. I will make videos not in my car. I feel like it just makes the audio really nice because it's like such a tight space. I feel so grateful for all my experiences. Like, I would be nothing without crazy traumatic experiences, even like the capital T trauma. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for your curiosity in me. I'm so honored, honestly. And thank you for taking the time to watch and liking the video, subscribing to me, and leaving a comment. I really read all the comments and try to respond to all of them. And I'm so grateful for this journey, honestly. Like, whenever I'm down in the dumps, I'm kind of like, but I am excited about this new YouTube journey. Like, I'm really excited about it, and I'm so grateful for all of you, and I love you all so much. Thank you times a million. Mwah.